If you think the Raiders got better this offseason, hit that like button because you are going to love this video. I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, the Las Vegas Raiders get encouraging news from ESPN. Plus, I'm going to be breaking down my top 10 moves by the Silver and Black this offseason. I'm going to go from 10, work my way all the way down to 1. If you didn't see an article released by ESPN, it was titled 100 Days to the 2025 NFL Season, Things to Know and Predictions. The reason why I wanted to do this video is because one of the things that I've continuously said all offseason is I want to show Raiders fans that this organization is doing the right things and people are noticing. The Raiders were actually listed as the NFL's most improved team by ESPN, and then the teams that were also put in there with the Silver and Black as being improved teams this offseason were the Raiders, the Bears, and the New England Patriots. Here's what ESPN had to say on the Raiders' improvements. No team made bigger strides at the two most important positions than the Raiders. Geno Smith is multiple tiers better than Gardner, Minshew, and Aidan, which should provide weekly above-average quarterback play. I really want to be able to hit this on the head because I know that there's a lot of fans that sit back and go, well, I got to see it before, I can actually believe. And I totally get that. I think that's probably a little bit more of a product of the Raiders just being bad for essentially every year since 2002. But Geno Smith is a massive upgrade over every quarterback that we've had. Quite frankly, I think Geno is the best QB the Silver and Black have had since 2016 Derek Carr. But then also when you add Pete Carroll into the mix, on top of the fact that you add this entire regime and everything that they are doing, the Raiders have a legit shot to win every single week, which I don't think that this team has been able to say for the last few years. Let's keep it moving, though, on what ESPN had to say. Pete Carroll is multiple tiers better at head coach than Antonio Pierce, who struggled with in-game and locker room management. Those changes alone should massively raise the Raiders' floor, and the presence of potential offensive stars such as Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty elevate the ceiling. Again, I really wish Antonio Pierce would have worked out, and AP, I have no qualms with him. I got no hard feelings towards him. But then, let's be real. Pete Carroll is a much more established coach. And one of the biggest areas and probably one of the biggest weaknesses that we had last season was head coach and quarterback. I don't know if we went into any game last year thinking we got the better head coach or quarterback combo. Quite frankly, if you were to power rank all 32 teams last season based on head coach and quarterback, the Raiders are probably ranked dead last in that list. So the fact that now I think that we're a top 10, top 12 team in terms of head coach, quarterback, that alone will make this team better. ESPN also said this: I expect the Raiders to be around 500 this season, so as long as they endure the defensive departures. The defensive departures are going to be tough. Losing Trevon Merrick, Robert Spillane, Nate Hobbs, those are going to be serious losses. However, though, I do think the Raiders have done a good job building depth through free agency, building depth also through the draft. So if we can get to 500, a football team that won 4 games last season, and 4 games is lucky, to you be then 500 in the AFC West just goes to show of all the improvements that we made. So if ESPN's going to say, all right, I expect this team to be around 500, if you haven't seen the Raiders schedule or if you forget about it, let's quickly run through the Silver and Black's 2025 schedule. Obviously starting week 1 at New England, you got that week 8 bye, so you get a little bit of a break there. I will say weeks 9 to week 18, Week 13 is really going to be a massive turning point for this team. Honestly, man, even Week 10. You got a few cupcake games in there with Cleveland, the Giants, but here's the thing. You can't consider any game a cupcake game in the National Football League because you never know what's going to happen, especially late in the season. So after seeing what ESPN had to say about the Raiders being the most improved team and you knowing what the schedule is, how many games will the Silver and Black win this season? My answer coming up after this YouTube ad break. The number that I'm going to continuously go with here is 9, and if you didn't see my season prediction video that I put out earlier, I'll also try to put that video for you guys down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. But I do think that the Raiders are a 500 team, and I agree with a lot of the things that ESPN said, simply based on us getting better at quarterback and us getting better at head coach. that will make the Raiders a better football team. But since we're talking about the offseason moves, and since ESPN brought up Pete and brought up the Geno trade, I figured one of the things that I could do here is really illustrate the top 10 Raiders offseason moves, and I'm going to rank them from 10 all the way down to 1, which means number 1 is the number 1 most important move that the Raiders ended up making this offseason. Before I take that deep dive, if you got something that you need to do, I need you to go get some Raiders gear, and because 1, it's on sale, 2, Father's Day is right around the corner, and by going to chatsports.com/Raiders sale, that link will be down in the comments and in the description of today's show. You're going to be able to get the gear that you want. We got hats, we got hoodies, we got shorts, we got t-shirts. There's stuff there for kiddos. There's stuff there for the woman in your life. There's stuff for all sorts, shapes, and sizes. If you're a Raiders fan, and if you like a good deal, chatsports.com/Raider sale, RAIDERSALE. If you don't know how to spell Raider, and if you don't know how to spell sale, I think we got a bigger issue on our hands. So let's get into the top 10 Raiders offseason moves ranked. And again, I'm going to quickly run through some of these, but I just want people to know where I stand, what my thought process is, and some of the moves that really did help make the Raiders a better football team. Coming in here at number 10, it might be a minor one, and some people might even say it's not a change. I would argue that it might not be a change, but I'd also argue that there was a lot of people saying Jackson Powers-Johnson might not be the center this season. The fact that it seems like it is set in stone that JPJ is the center and the type of football that this team wants to play, a very FU brand, I think is what was needed to go in the right direction. Coming in here at number 9, I'm going to go signing a Landon Roberts. Losing Robert Spillane sucks. But it was really important for us, 1, to find a green dot linebacker, 2, be able to find a leader on that defense, and he is a true leader and a potential captain. Let's go to number 8. I'm going to go Jeremy Chinn. When you lose out on Spillane, you got to figure out a way to replace him. Landon Roberts isn't good enough to replace him by himself, so I think by going out and getting a guy like Jeremy Chinn, who comps very similarly to Cam Chancellor, who had a lot of success with Pete Carroll, who also played his best football with Dan Quinn, who also comes from the Pete Carroll tree. Going out and getting Jeremy Chinn, people are going to realize that they did the right thing signing these two players instead of bringing back Robert Spillane. I know, hot take, but I'm going to go with it. Re-signing Malcolm Koonce on a 1-year, $12 million deal. Koonce want to come back to the Raiders, but this needs to be a team that gets after the quarterback, and it's going to have to be the strength of this defense. I love the deal that they ended up getting with Malcolm Koonce for $12 million on 1 year. It's better than the Nate Hobbs deal. It's better than the Trevon Merrick deal. It's better than the Robert Spillane deal. But to me, out of all of those big-name free agents, the number 1 free agent, and I said this, go back and check out my videos, the number 1 most important player the Raiders needed to bring back was Adam Butler. I'm not saying Adam Butler is a better player than Nate Hobbs, and I'm not saying he's a better player than Trevon Merrick or Robert Spillane. I'm saying what he brings to the table and what the Raiders needed to be able to win in the trenches there, because Adam Butler makes Max Crosby better. Adam Butler makes Malcolm Koonce better. Adam Butler makes Wilkins better. Adam Butler makes Tyree Wilson better. Adam Butler makes everybody else around him better, which is what this team really needs going into 2025. Before I get into my top 5 moves that the Raiders did this offseason, if you always find yourself looking for Raiders analysis, anybody can talk about breaking news. Anybody can say, hey, this is a rumor going on. I really believe that this is the most popular Raiders show the last 7 years. 1, we're free. 2, we provide analysis. Also, the relationships that we've been able to build here through this YouTube channel prove to me every single day that we got a lot more going here than just a YouTube channel. And I always got to show some love to the Noti gang. So the people that were the very first people down in the comments section, people that I know are subscribed, people that I know got the notifications turned on. Luis, Jaime, Jose, and Trevor, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you. And if you want to get a shout out on a future Raiders Report show, got to sub, got to turn on those noties, and you got to join the Noti gang. Let's go to number 5 here. It's drafting Ashton Jeanty. There was a part of me where I really thought about putting in a few other players in terms of guys that the Raiders drafted, but Jeanty, along the lines of JPJ, and I think it's along the lines of the mentality the Raiders are going to bring, they're going to try to play a brand of FU football. Let's go to number 4 here. It's the Max Crosby extension, which some people might think this is a little bit high. I would look at it more as the Raiders told the entire world that we are trying to win football games by going out and getting Max. that we do right by our players when they do right by us. If you're trying to build guys that love football, and if you're trying to build a 2 to 3 window, it was very important that you extended Max, and the way that they did it was a very smart extension. Let's go to number 3 here. I'm going to go with hiring Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll was a hire that I was initially a little bit nervous about because I said the Raiders have failed to find a head coach. By hiring Pete, you essentially got to get it right twice because he's only going to be around for 3, maybe he's around for 4 years. Father Time is undefeated. But bringing in Pete Carroll also brings stability. It also brings, hey, we got a head coach that can sit at that AFC West table because Pete's not going to back down from Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Harbaugh. Not going to happen. I also would love to just say that Pete Carroll, the fact that he was able to keep Patrick Graham, the fact that he was able to also go out and get Chip Kelly kind of ties into that. But then again, number 2 here, I'm going to say hiring John Spytek. I will pound on the table and say hiring John Spytek is a bigger win for the Raiders than hiring Pete Carroll. And that might be a shocking statement to make considering of all the winning that Carroll has done. But I think it just goes to show how much I respect Spytek. And, a lot of the front office moves that this team has made, a lot of the moves that we've made from coaching decisions really have come on the back of Spytek. And when you see how well he is credited for how much love he gets, I probably could have put Tom Brady in this conversation. But the hiring of John Spytek, and I think that also goes a little bit to the Tom Brady discussion. But number 1, the biggest move that the Raiders made this offseason was the Geno Smith trade. At the end of the day, if you don't have a quarterback, it's really hard to win in the NFL, and I think that that's been the Raiders' problem for a long time. We've had some interesting rosters, which I think interesting is the nicest way to put it, quite frankly, but we also haven't had a legit quarterback. We legit have a quarterback now, a no-doubt top 15 QB that's got legit top 10 upside. So these are the top 10 moves that the Raiders have made, but I got to know from you, if you made it this far in the video, to me, you're a real one. To me, you're somebody that I would love to know what you have to say, and I know that I'm always the one up here talking. I'm sitting up here talking to a camera, and it's hard to see who's in front of me. But I do genuinely look at the comments. I do genuinely care what you guys have to say. So I want to know, what was the best move that the Raiders made this offseason? I also thought about talking about some other moves that the Raiders, moved on from, like moving on from Telesco, moving on from AP, not drafting Shedeur Sanders, I thought could have been one to throw out there as well. But I wanted to really just focus on the good because this Raiders team, the point of this video is this Raiders team is acting like a smart franchise from the top all the way down. I notice it. The nation's noticing it. And for people like ESPN to start noticing, I'm excited for the world to notice next.